So it's a Tuesday morning. You sit down in the boardroom, and your entire leadership team gathers for the weekly performance review.
Oh, I know this scenario well.
Right. The agenda is totally packed. You need to make a call on a major hiring push by noon, and the finance director opens up a spreadsheet and announces that revenue for the month is sitting at, say, $4.2 million.
But then the sales director frowns.
Exactly. They pull up the CRM and say, no, wait, we closed $4.7 million. And then, of course, your operations lead chimes in with a third, entirely different number that they just pulled from the job management system.
And instantly, all the strategic momentum in that room just completely vanishes.
Oof, gone.
Yeah, you aren't discussing strategy anymore. You're spending the next 45 minutes arguing over whose spreadsheet is actually telling the truth.
I mean, the critical decisions you needed to make today, they just get pushed to next week.
Which is incredibly frustrating.
It really is. Well, welcome to all the C9 followers tuning in from our podcast and business page. I'm your host, Lex.
And I'm your resident expert, Vera, right here on the C9 Podcast Show.
And I want to speak directly to you for a second. If you are an Australian business owner or a C-level executive, this deep dive is built explicitly for your reality.
This really is.
Our mission today is to tear down a comprehensive, genuinely eye-opening article by C9. We are exploring exactly why Australian businesses are generating mountains of data, but are still somehow starving for actual intelligence.
Yeah, and how bespoke analytic dashboards are the ultimate mechanism to fix this.
Because it's like buying a one-size-fits-all suit. Sure, it technically covers you, but it doesn't fit your actual measurements. It doesn't fit your unique business logic. So you just end up looking, totally uncoordinated.
That's a perfect analogy. And look, it's a critical conversation because that boardroom scenario you opened with, it's not an exaggeration.
Oh, it happens every day.
Right. It is the default operating state for so many organizations. I mean, they don't have a data problem. They have a data intelligence problem.
And the macroeconomic picture here is just staggering. We're looking at an Australian data analytics market that is absolutely flooding with capital right now.
Oh, massively.
I mean, it was valued at roughly $2 billion in 2024, and the projections show it rocketing to $19.8 billion by 2034. That is massive sustained investment.
Yet we have this massive paradox, right? Because a recent government AI adoption tracker revealed that a mere 22% of Australian SMEs feel they're actually getting faster, accurate data to drive their decision-making.
Wait, really? Only 22%?
Yeah, only 22%. So you have billions of dollars pouring into analytics software, but almost 80% of companies are still essentially operating completely blind.
That is wild. I want to dig into that 80% failure rate because the source text points a very clear finger at the trap of generic business intelligence tools.
Yes, the off-the-shelf stuff.
Right. We've all seen the slick marketing for global platforms like Power BI or Tableau, and they look incredibly polished in a controlled demo environment. So where is the disconnect happening when an Australian business actually tries to deploy them?
Well, the breakdown happens across three specific failure modes. The first is what we call the data fragmentation trap.
Okay, what does that look like in practice?
Basically, very few businesses run their operations on a single unified software ecosystem. A typical mid-market Australian firm is juggling like 4 to 8 completely disconnected platforms.
Oh, yeah. Like Xero for accounting, Salesforce for sales.
Exactly. You've got Xero handling the financials, Salesforce managing the pipeline, perhaps an industry-specific tool for logistics, and then this chaotic web of Excel sheets just trying to hold it all together.
And a generic BI tool just isn't built to navigate that specific messy web. It attempts to force your highly customized business processes into a global average template.
Right. It doesn't understand the unique ways your systems map to each other.
So the data doesn't reconcile. And as an executive, the very first time you spot a conflicting number on a dashboard, your trust in that entire system just evaporates.
Precisely. And once trust is gone, adoption drops to 0, which triggers the second failure mode, the context switching tax.
Oh, what this part of the source was fascinating.
Yeah. Because when the generic dashboard fails to give a reliable overview, employees just revert back to hunting for data manually across all those disparate systems.
And the underlying psychology and the cost of that manual hunting is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The source brings in research from the University of California, Irvine, that quantified cognitive friction.
The 23-minute rule.
Yes. They found it takes a knowledge worker about 23 minutes to regain deep, productive focus after a single interruption or context switch.
Which is huge. When you apply that metric to an entire business, the financial drain is terrifying.
Let's do the math on that. Say you have a team of 30 knowledge workers. If they have to break their workflow to jump into a clunky, disconnected analytics portal or, cross-reference a separate CRM just 3 times a day.
That adds up fast.
It does. You are incinerating over 1,000 highly productive hours every single month. You aren't just paying for an ineffective software license. You are actively draining your payroll efficiency.
And that leads directly to the third issue, which is misaligned metrics.
Right.
I mean, a generic tool offers generic key performance indicators, but think about the operational reality here. A commercial construction firm operating out of Brisbane has fundamentally different value drivers, cash flow cycles, and regulatory constraints than, say, a retail chain operating in California.
Completely different worlds.
Exactly. If the dashboard doesn't reflect the precise mechanics of how your business generates profit, it just becomes useless noise.
Okay, hold on. Let me play devil's advocate here and challenge this premise.
Go for it.
I can hear a skeptical executive listening right now thinking, sure, a generic tool's a bit clunky, but building a completely custom analytics dashboard from the ground up? That sounds like a vanity project. Isn't that just spending capital to get shinier graphs and a premium feel?
I mean, that is the most common pushback we see. But it ignores the heaviest, most unforgiving reality of running a company in Australia right now, which is compliance.
Compliance.
Yeah, compliance. Custom architecture isn't about shiny graphs. It's about structural defense.
Okay, but how does a custom build solve compliance in a way an off-the-shelf tool can't?
Well, generic global platforms are designed for the lowest common denominator of international law. They do not natively understand the nuances of Australia's Privacy Act of 1988 or the strict reporting mandates of the Notifiable Data Breaches Scheme.
Ah, I see.
And if you're in finance or health, you have APRA's CPS 234 standard demanding rigorous information security. When you buy a generic tool, it often pulls all your data into this centralized, highly vulnerable lake.
Right, so you end up having to spend a fortune on external consultants just trying to retrofit security measures onto a product that wasn't actually built for them.
Exactly. Whereas with a custom dashboard, you embed those governance rules into the actual code from day one. You implement role-based access control at the granular level.
What does that look like day to day?
For instance, a marketing manager can see aggregate conversion rates to optimize a campaign, but the underlying personally identifiable information is masked and encrypted. Only the compliance officer can decrypt that specific tier of data.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, that level of targeted sovereignty is incredibly difficult and expensive to bolt onto a generic tool after the fact.
So if generic templates are a potential compliance minefield and an operational drain, how do data scientists actually construct a secure, functional system from the ground up? Like, what is the actual blueprint that ensures the business can trust the numbers on the screen?
The gold standard methodology used by elite data teams is called the OSEMN Framework. It was developed back in 2010 by 2 data scientists, Hilary Mason and Chris Wiggins.
And according to our sources, it is spelled OSEMN, but officially pronounced awesome, which I have to say is brilliant branding for a data science methodology.
Oh, it really is. It's memorable, but more importantly, it's structurally rigorous. The acronym represents the 5 chronological stages of transforming raw, chaotic inputs into actual executive intelligence.
Obtain, scrub, explore, model, and interpret.
That's the one.
Let's break down the mechanics of these phases, starting with the obtain.
Uh-huh.
Because this isn't just about knowing where your servers are, is it?
No, not at all. It's about engineering the ingestion process to eliminate human error entirely. You cannot claim to have a data strategy if your process involves an analyst manually exporting a CSV file from zero every Friday afternoon and emailing it to the management team.
Guilty is charged for a lot of businesses out there.
Ooh, definitely.
Yeah.
Obtaining data means building automated API pipelines that pull information directly from your operational software in real time without a human hand ever touching it.
But pulling the data is almost the easy part. The real bottleneck seems to be the second phase scrub, because the source material notes a stat that frankly sounds exhausting.
The time spent cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Data professionals spend 60 to 80% of their entire project time just cleaning the data. Why is that phase so resource intensive?
Because raw business data is incredibly messy, and algorithms have absolutely zero common sense.
Right.
Imagine your CRM logs a massive international sale in US dollars, but your accounting software records it in Australian dollars. If a human looks at it, they might intuitively realize the discrepancy.
But the machine won't.
Nope. An automated dashboard will just blindly aggregate those numbers, and suddenly your revenue forecast is wildly distorted.
And if that distorted number makes its way into the Tuesday boardroom meeting, the system is dead. Nobody trusts it.
Exactly. Scrubbing is the mathematical process of normalizing currencies, eliminating duplicate customer records, standardizing date formats, and mapping orphan costs to the correct departments. It's tedious, unglamorous work, but it is the absolute bedrock of trust.
And once that bedrock is laid, we move to the e-explore. This is exploratory data analysis.
Yes, the really fun part.
It really is, because it's the phase where you interrogate the clean data to find hidden anomalies before you even think about designing a chart. And the sources provided a phenomenal real-world example of this mechanism in action.
Oh, the professional services firm. This perfectly illustrates why you need this exact framework.
Let's unpack that story because it's incredible. This firm was bringing in millions in revenue, but they felt their margins were unexplainably tight.
Right.
During the explore phase, a data scientist didn't just look at high-level profit. They cross-referenced the hours employees were logging in the system against the specific invoices being generated for clients. They started digging into the gaps.
And they found a massive cluster of advisory work being done. But in the back-end software, that specific category of work was accidentally mapped to a $0 billing code.
It's just wild. The firm had been essentially giving away hundreds of hours of premium advisory work for free, entirely by accident.
By simply identifying and fixing that one broken internal code, the firm recovered an amount equivalent to 11% of their annual revenue.
11%?
Yeah. They didn't have to hire a single new employee or win a single new client. They just stopped the bleeding. A generic, off-the-shelf pie chart would never have caught that because it isn't designed to look for it.
That's the power of bespoke exploration. And once you understand those historical patterns, you can transition to the M model. This is the paradigm shift from looking backward to looking forward.
Exactly, moving from a rear-view mirror to a navigation system.
It's where you apply statistical algorithms to generate predictive forecasts. But I've got to push back here too, because I've seen predictive models fail spectacularly when they blindly assume the future will look exactly like the past.
Oh, absolutely. Happens all the time.
I mean, forecasting is essentially an algorithm trying to guess human behavior. How does an executive confidently make $1 million resource allocation based on a machine's guess?
That's a brilliant question, and frankly, it's the difference between amateur reporting and genuine data science. A poor model gives you what we call false precision.
False precision.
Yeah. It will tell you that next quarter's revenue will be exactly $5.2 million. As an executive, you know that level of certainty is a lie, so you ignore it. A rigorous statistical model doesn't give you a single point. It gives you a confidence interval.
Okay, explain the mechanics of a confidence interval for a non-technical executive. What does that actually mean?
Well, the algorithm runs thousands of simulations based on historical variance, seasonality, and market conditions. So instead of a single number, the model outputs a probability range.
Like a bracket.
Exactly. It tells you, based on current pipeline velocity, there is an 85% mathematical probability that next quarter's revenue will fall between 4.8 million and 5.5 million.
So you aren't being asked to blindly trust a guess. You are being given the mathematical boundaries of your operational risk.
Exactly. You can make defensible decisions because the uncertainty has been quantified. But honestly, none of this matters if you fail the final step of the framework, which is the N-interpret.
This was the statistic that really made me pause. The technology, the pipelines, the scrubbing, the algorithms, all of that computational heavy lifting only represents 40% of a successful analytic solution.
Yeah, people are always shocked by that. The remaining 60% is pure human change management. Interpretation isn't about the software, it's about organizational psychology.
Because if you build the most technologically advanced dashboard on Earth, but you don't aggressively map it to the actual operational language of your team, what happens?
It gets politely praised in the launch meeting and then completely abandoned within 90 days.
Just collects digital dust.
Yep. To survive, the dashboard has to answer the specific questions your team is already asking using the internal terminology they already use. It requires training the organizational muscle memory so that consulting the data becomes the reflex, rather than just relying on gut instinct.
So if an organization commits to this rigorous, awesome framework and successfully manages the human element, how does that actually materialize into hard dollars across different sectors? Let's look at how this plays out in the Australian market.
Well, the applications are incredibly varied because the framework adapts to the industry's specific pain points. Take the commercial construction and trades sector, for example.
Okay.
Traditionally, cost overruns, where labor or materials exceed the quote, are only discovered during a post-mortem after the project is already finished.
When it's way too late to do anything about it.
Exactly. But a custom dashboard pulls timesheet data, supplier invoices, and subcontractor rates into a live view. It acts as an active triage system. It alerts the project manager to margin erosion in week 3 of a 10-week build, giving them time to actually course correct before the job finishes in the red.
It transforms data from a historical autopsy into a live navigational tool. And the healthcare example from the sources was equally impressive.
The DNA rates.
Yes. They used predictive modeling to tackle DNA rates appointments where the patient did not attend.
Because missed appointments are an enormous source of evaporating revenue for clinics. By running the model phase, clinics can identify the specific hidden risk factors for no-shows.
Right. The model might reveal that Tuesday morning appointments for a specific demographic have a 40% higher probability of a no-show.
And armed with that intelligence, the clinic doesn't just send generic reminders. They build automated, targeted SMS interventions specifically for that high-risk segment.
And the sources noted this dropped DNA weights by 15 to 20%. That is pure recovered revenue that drops straight to the bottom line.
And we see similar efficiency gains in professional services, particularly around automating the discovery of underbilled time.
Oh, the end-of-month timesheet nightmare.
Exactly. Instead of relying on a partner doing a manual, exhausting timesheet audit at the end of the month, the dashboard continuously tracks the delta between hours logged in the building and hours actually invoiced to clients, flagging leakage instantly.
Wow. We've covered the back-end architecture and the industry applications, but I want to pivot to the visual layer. The actual interface the CEO is staring at on their tablet, because the psychology of data visualization is literally a science unto itself.
It is. The human brain is wired to process visual information 60,000 times faster than text.
60,000 times faster. That is a profound biological advantage. But it's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. If you design the visual interface poorly, you overwhelm the executive's cognitive load, and the brain simply shuts down the processing.
The source material lays out 5 rules of design for executive dashboards, and they read like a masterclass in cognitive psychology. Rule number 1 is singular intent.
Meaning, a dashboard cannot be everything to everyone. Every single chart must answer one highly specific operational question.
Right, you don't build a visual to ask a vague question like, how's the company doing?
No, you build a visual to answer, are our current customer acquisition costs sustainable enough to fund our 2025 expansion goals? Precision in the question creates clarity in the visual.
That sets up Rule 2 perfectly, which is the 5-second rule. If a decision maker cannot grasp the single most important insight within 5 seconds of glancing at the screen, the design has fundamentally failed.
It's all about respecting executive bandwidth.
I instantly thought of driving down a highway when I read this rule. You are moving at 110 kilometers an hour, you don't want a manual, and you certainly don't have the time to read a paragraph of text on a road sign.
He crashed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to know instantly, in a fraction of a second, if there is a sharp hairpin turn ahead. An executive dashboard has to function exactly like that highway sign. High speed, high stakes visibility.
That's a perfect analogy. But to read that sign correctly, you need Rule 3, which is context always. A number floating in isolation is cognitively meaningless.
Right. If a dashboard simply says $4.2 million, my brain doesn't know what to do with that. Is that a record-breaking month, or are we about to go bankrupt?
Exactly. A primary metric must always be anchored by a target, a historical comparison period, and a trend line. Context is what transforms a random number into an actionable insight.
Which brings us to Rule 4. And this is a massive pet peeve for anyone who has stared at bad reporting color as signal.
Yes. We have to stop using red, amber, and green simply as decorative elements to make a screen look less boring.
Because it just destroys the visual hierarchy. If every bar chart and pie slice is a neon color, nothing stands out. You just create visual noise.
Exactly. In a professionally designed interface, the vast majority of the screen should be muted grays or subtle brand colors. You reserve red and green exclusively to signal performance status.
So the color essentially drags the executive's eye to the exact metric that requires intervention.
Bingo. And the final rule is progressive disclosure. This is about managing the depth of information. You have to keep the deep transactional weeds entirely away from the C-suite summary view.
Because the CEO and the frontline analyst are asking completely different questions?
Right, the CEO needs the strategic horizon. If they spot an anomaly and want the granular details, the interface should allow them to click and drill down into the transaction level. But you never force the CEO to wade through the weeds just to find the summary.
Makes perfect sense. So we've outlined a system that is structurally secure, statistically sound, and visually optimized for the human brain.
Yes, we have.
But here is the ultimate test. Building bespoke infrastructure requires capital. How does a C-level executive walk into the boardroom and justify the upfront investment of a custom build to a cautious CFO?
Well, building a bulletproof business case relies on 4 highly measurable value levers.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first and most obvious is revenue growth. When you drastically improve the speed and quality of your commercial decisions, you win more deals and optimize pricing. Forrester Research actually conducted a comprehensive study and found that organizations investing properly in custom analytics see an average return on investment of 127% over 3 years.
There is a very specific Australian data point supporting this too. An MYOB survey of mid-market domestic firms revealed that 52% of them reported significant revenue growth compared to only 22% for smaller firms.
And the defining characteristic?
The mid-market firms were 2.4 times more likely to prioritize and invest heavily in their data infrastructure. The correlation is just undeniable.
The second lever for the CFO is cost reduction. When you finally have operational intelligence, the inefficiencies hiding inside your business become painfully obvious.
Because you can finally see them.
Exactly. Custom deployments routinely identify 5 to 15% in pure operational savings within the first 90 days, simply by visualizing waste in the supply chain or labor scheduling.
Wow. And the third lever is risk avoidance, which might be the most powerful argument for regulated industries. Catching a single compliance violation before an APRA audit or foreseeing a critical cash flow bottleneck 3 months before it hits, that essentially pays for the entire dashboard build in one massive stroke of asymmetric value.
Absolutely. And the fourth lever is what we call analyst liberation.
I love that concept so much. It completely reframes the value of the finance team.
It's transformative. By automating the brutal, repetitive process of report production, you return 15 to 25 hours a week back to your analysts and finance directors.
That's huge.
It is. Instead of acting as highly paid copy-pasters moving data between spreadsheets, they are actually analyzing market strategy and driving the business forward. You are buying back the cognitive capacity of your smartest people.
I mean, that alone is worth the investment. Let's synthesize all of this. What does this deep dive ultimately mean for the listener? The overarching lesson here is that collecting data without the architecture to extract intelligence is just creating an expensive operational liability.
Completely agree. Generic templates force your unique business to bend and adapt to the limitations of the software.
Right. But a bespoke, custom-built dashboard adapts entirely to how your business actually functions, natively embedding your compliance needs and scaling right alongside your ambition.
It represents the fundamental shift from defensively reacting to your business environment to actively leading within it.
And I want to leave you with a chilling operational question to really mull over after this finishes.
This is a good one.
Think about your most aggressive competitor right now. If that competitor adopts the 5-second rule for their data visibility, meaning their leadership team understands their exact margin performance at a glance, and your executive team still requires a 45-minute argument to simply agree on what yesterday's revenue number was.
How long until their speed of decision-making completely prices you out of the Australian market?
Exactly.
That is the unforgiving reality of the modern landscape. Speed of accurate insight is speed of execution. You simply cannot out-execute a competitor who sees the battlefield clearer than you do.
Which is exactly why you need the right technical partner to build this infrastructure before your competitors do. C9 is Australia's leading custom software, apps, integration, and database developer company.
They don't sell off-the-rack templates.
No, they don't. They are ready to engineer dashboards built from the ground up for your exact business logic, your specific industry, and your unique compliance requirements.
The journey starts by simply getting professional clarity on what your data could genuinely be doing for you, rather than what it's currently costing you.
Take action on this today. Direct your browser right now to www.c9.com.au and book a complimentary discovery workshop with their team.
Stop guessing about your performance and start knowing.
Again, that website is www.c9.com.au.
It has been an absolute pleasure breaking down this methodology with you all. The framework is there. It just requires the leadership to implement it.
Before you jump back into your business, please hit that follow button and share this deep dive with other business owners or executives in your network who are tired of fighting with their spreadsheets and could genuinely benefit from this knowledge. On behalf of the C9 Podcast Show, thank you for listening. We will catch you on the next deep dive. Keep making those data-driven decisions.